Go outside and play and drink your milk may have been frequent quotes that you've heard your parents say, or you tell your own children. Even though we may be reluctant to follow the advice, it is the right thing to do. Research shows that what we eat and how active we are in the first 2 decades of our lives determines our bone health for a lifetime. Today on It's About You, Dr. Christopher Berger, exercise physiologist at the University of Kentucky, shows us how weight-bearing exercises are good for our bone health. And Marissa Fitzgerald-All, family consumer science agent for Jessamine County, tells us why calcium is important to bone health and how to increase calcium-rich foods in our diet. Chris, why should we make bone health a priority?
Well, it's estimated that about 10 million Americans actually have the disease osteoporosis, and we think that about 34 million Americans are at risk for osteoporosis. And so it's an expensive disease, and it's one that we really do need to treat with physical activity and good nutrition.
Chris, how can we detect whether or not we might be prone to osteoporosis or actually have it?
There are actually risk factors that we've identified as putting you at a greater likelihood of developing the disease. If you have a low bone mineral density, if you're female, if you're postmenopausal, if you're over the age of 40, if you don't get much physical activity, those are all risk factors for the disease. If you suspect that you have osteoporosis or believe that you are at risk for osteoporosis, there's a couple of things that you can do. You can go to a health fair, and sometimes they have portable equipment that they can use to check your bones. They'll check your heel for bone density. The other thing you can do is check with your physician. And if you do check with your physician, typically what they will do is perform a test called a DEXA, which is dual energy X-ray absorptiometry. It's just a fancy term for a bone scan. And once you have that bone scan, they can determine whether or not you do have that low bone mineral density and whether or not you've got osteoporosis.
Chris, what are the best exercises that we can do that will keep our bones healthy regardless of our age?
Well, there are basically 2 types that you can engage in. Aerobic type exercise like tennis and running, and even things like climbing the stairs would be good for the bones. Other types of exercise involve what we call resistive exercises or resistance training. And those are exercises that involve weights, machines, and even jump rope.
Chris, what do the experts say how frequently we should exercise to actually build our bones?
It's important to remember that even if you are relatively physically inactive, some exercise is probably better than no exercise, and as you get more progressively stronger and you feel more comfortable with physical activity, you'll improve your bone health even more. In general, we recommend that you engage in aerobic type exercises at least 3 to 5 days per week. We recommend weight training on at least 2 to 3 days per week, and this intensity should be fairly high. If you start out walking, try to mix in a little bit of jogging with that. If you start out with a light weight, try to increase the weight so that you can perform that exercise at least 8 to 12 times before you become exhausted.
Marissa, Chris just talked about the importance of physical activity in bone health. We also know what we eat is also important to bone health, especially calcium. Why the importance of calcium in the diet?
Calcium is very important for people of all ages, but especially because it helps us with strong bones and healthy, strong teeth. It also helps the blood to clot, and it really helps our bodies heal as well. And if children don't get enough calcium early on, then their bones can have problems and improper growth.
Well, we know that Americans typically don't consume the 3 servings of dairy that's recommended on a daily basis. So what do you tell people? How can they add more dairy and especially calcium in their diet?
Well, there's lots of ways, and they're quick and easy ways for people on the go. You can find dairy items and add them to your breakfast. For example, if you grab just some yogurt in the morning, you can add some almonds, which also have calcium in them as well, and you're out the door, and you can take that to work with you, eat it at your desk. Very quick and easy, and a wonderful source of calcium as well.
Well, we always hear that people say, well, if I don't drink milk, I can eat, vegetables. But is there really calcium in vegetables?
Well, there is calcium in vegetables, but you'd have to consume a lot of vegetables to get enough calcium that would equal 1 8-ounce glass of milk or 300 milligrams. For example, we have some spinach here today, and you need about 11 servings of that just to equal 1 8-ounce glass of milk. We have some broccoli. You need about 4 servings of broccoli to get the same amount of calcium in 1 8-ounce glass of milk. So, of course, dairy is always our best option, and for those of us who have trouble or can't tolerate or have an allergy, there are other options, but just know that you do need more of those to equal the amount we get in 1 glass of milk.
But we know sometimes people can't consume dairy foods because they are either lactose intolerant or have a milk allergy. What are some other ways that we can include calcium in our diet?
Well, I happen to be lactose intolerant, so this is a problem that I deal with on a daily basis, but there are lots of other sources to help you attain the amount of calcium that you need each day. Soy milk that are calcium rich and fortified, and tofu as well, which is calcium fortified. Canned fish with bones, like salmon. You can also eat sardines as well. Nuts, there's calcium fortified juices, cereals, oatmeals. You really do have to read labels. Labels are so important, and especially if you have an intolerance or an allergy to something.
Enjoy the summer months. Get outside and play. Enjoy the sun, and remember, drink your milk or eat other calcium-rich foods. For more information on eating well or bone health, contact your local Cooperative Extension office.